Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'da. Habati fillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hayyakum Allah. We ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, accepts our good and forgives our evil, blesses us with ikhlas, with thabat, ala sunnat nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us all of our many sins, rectify our condition and affairs, help us to be better slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Habati fillah. Question was asked, as it's been asked many times, as many of our brothers and sisters kind of convolute the issue about the sects, and they're not groups, the sects of the Maturidis and the Asharis, the Asharis. Are they from Ahl Sunnah? Can we take from their scholars? Can we sit with them? Are they our brothers on the Sunnah? So it's very important, ahabati fillah. This is not meant to be a long drawn out muhadara lecture. This is not meant to be something that has a lot of tafsil, a lot of details, but rather just to give a very simple, simplistic understanding of those differences and why, in short, we don't say that the Maturidiyya or the Asha'ira are people we can take knowledge from, nor do we say they are from Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Rather, they are sects. They are sects in Islam, which are sects of Mubtadi'ah. They are innovated groups. Now, when we look at this mustalah, this terminology of Ahl Sunnah, Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and whether someone is from Ahl Sunnah, there is a jawab or answer which is which is general, meaning the general use of the terminology Ahl Sunnah, and then there is a more specific answer, which is the one that we're more accustomed to, and our usage for the term of Ahl Sunnah, and excluding those who differ with Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. So Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we're referring to those people and the group that adheres to the Quran and the Sunnah with the understanding of the Salaf, and the Salaf meaning the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in, wa tabi'in wa tabi'at tabi'in. That means they have their aqidah in al-asma'i wa sifat, the divine names and attributes of Allah. They don't negate them, they don't distort them, they don't make a resemblance between Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His creation, and they do not make the issue of tafweed. They do not say, oh yeah, we just don't know what it means. We don't even know what the Quran means. We just read it. We read it without a meaning. No, Ahl Sunnah does not have that aqidah. That is not the aqidah of the Salaf. It is not the aqidah of Ahl Sunnah wala Salaf as-Salih. Walakin hada i'tiqad Ahl Bid'ah. That is the i'tiqad, the creed of Ahl Bid'ah, the people of innovation and desires. And we don't need to go into that in detail right now. So that's first and foremost. Ahl Sunnah also has the belief, for example, they do not speak ill of the Muslim rulers, or they do not rebel against the Muslim rulers, nor encourage people to rebel against the Muslim rulers. That's just a principle, a precept of the creed of Ahl Sunnah. Unlike these mubtadi adal mudil who call on the minbar, who call from their social media platforms and say it's okay, or there's more than one opinion on rebelling. Oh, it's okay to be a mubtadi on Monday, but Tuesday, no, you should be from Ahl Sunnah. No, I just have a choice. No, Ahl Sunnah does not. That's not from the Sunnah, and it's not from the Aqidah of Ahl Sunnah. It's not from the Minhaj of Ahl Sunnah. So that's another point. And there are many points of i'tiqad. So this drives home the point that Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, they adhere to certain precepts, creed, and they adhere to certain methodologies, a minhaj, which differs from the people of bid'ah and desires, the people who have a different creed and minhaj. And that is the case with the Asha'ira and the Maturidiyya. Now, this is not out of hasad, out of envy, or out of hatred, except for the hatred that is diniyya. This does not mean, oh, I don't like you because of this or that. No, it's not a racial classification. This has to do with your adherence to the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the classification in accordance with your adherence to the Quran and the Sunnah. So, as we said, that's a little bit about Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Now, Ahl bid'ah just meaning those who differ with that usul, who differ with that methodology in practice and in understanding. طيب. Especially in creed, because in creed now we're talking about the sectarianism, whereas when we talk about just minhaj or methodology, that could mean someone could be from a jama'ah or jama'at, like Jama'at al-Tabligh, Jama'at al-Ikhwan al-Muslimin, Jama'at al-Sururiya, any Jama'at al-Hizbiyya. You know, so what are they called? Jama'at al-Hizb Tahrir, Jama'at al-Takfeeree wa Hijra. You know, all these various groups, those are considered groups. They are not sects. Why? Because they're not really united upon a particular creed. They may have different creeds in that sect, or in that group, whereas a sect unites upon a particular creed, and that is the different definition that Sheikh Salih al-Sheikh gives is a very fantastic definition, which I abide by and I believe is a very correct classification of the difference between a sect and a jama'ah, and a group. So with that understanding of Ahbabti Fillah, when we talk about our Muslim brothers, those that are in the fold of Islam, and sisters from the Maturidis sect and the Ashaira or Ashari sect, and the reason being that they are sects is because they adhere to a particular creed. They believe certain things about the divine attributes of Allah. They believe certain things, perhaps maybe even about the inhabitants of the grave and approaching the grave, supplicating to the grave, and perhaps supplicating to the dead. Some of them, not all of them, but some of them. So they have a particular creedal theology that it's not just their methodology, but it's their creedal belief. It's their belief system, maybe even about the divine decree, that they have more in common with the Murji'a, with Irja, when it comes to the Maturidiyya and the Ashaira. So you'll find this in their creed. So that is in, this is the khas, the specific difference between them and us, meaning between Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and the Maturidiyya, the Naqshbandiyya, the Deobandiyya, even though you have people like Haqiqatu and other stuff like this saying that, you know, he admires them or they're from Ahl Sunnah. This is falsehood. This is batil. This is worse. This is a worse statement than many of the other Mubtadi'ah statements that these individuals claim. Right. So with that being the case, Ahbabti Fillah, we have to look at the use of this terminology, Ahl Sunnah. So Ahl Sunnah also, in some of the books, it refers to all the groups that are not Shia, meaning not especially Rafida Shia. So you'll find some of the scholars and some of the later day Hanabila, meaning those closest to our time, some of them, they classified the Ashaira and the Maturidiyya as other madhabs and creed from Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. This is wrong. We don't accept their classification. Their classification is not in accordance with the classification of the Salaf, even if they were scholars of great renown or they had some sort of prestige. They were mistaken in this issue, and some of them were Mubtadi'ah. But they included the Ashaira and the Maturidiyya in Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. Now, when we look at that, there's two ways to look at that. There's one in the way of saying, hey, no, sectarian takfiri, you are a liar. Wi-Fi, you are a liar. And I wouldn't say and especially attack someone as a liar. You liar. You are either ignorant or you're a liar. Why? I didn't make takfir to them, number one. Secondly, you are lying because I didn't call them kafirs. You are a liar. May Allah guide us in you or humiliate you for your ignorance. Don't speak without knowledge. And that's the nicest thing I can say to you. Right. So with that being the case, Ahbabti Fillah, people get so emotional about these debates. They get emotional. Don't let those things, don't let emotions lead you, but let it be knowledge. Say what you're saying based on knowledge. Okay, so when it comes to an individual saying someone is from Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, we also have to look at a fiqh principle. This principle, it's a deen principle. And that is al-ibra bi haqa'iq laysa bi musammiyat, that the reality of something is in its substance, not in its claim or name. So for example, I could say, hey, I am a Ku Klux Klan member. No, it's not possible. Generally, they're not going to accept me as a member of their group because their group is based on white supremacy and hatred and so forth like this. I can't be a part of their group. So even if I claim that, my reality is not that, okay? Or, for example, I could say my t-shirt is actually blue. I like blue. It's my favorite color. I prefer this to be blue, even if you claim it's not blue. We cannot, a claim is empty. Calling someone something, claiming that you are something is empty without the reality. So with that being the case, when someone claims that the Maturidis or the Asharis are from Sunnah and that they are following the way of Hadith, even though they will dispute that, they say, no, we don't follow Hadith, and Hadith are Mubtadi'ah, and Hadith are Kafir. They will make takfeer, some of them, and they will declare them to be innovators, many of them. So when you make that claim, it has to be backed up with a haqiqah, meaning it has to be backed up with a reality. And the reality must be based on the Quran and the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. It must be based on nas, on text, divine text, which is the Quran and the Sunnah. And that is so imperative for us to know and understand, or we can damage reality. We become a liar, plain and simple. May Allah protect us and forgive us. Or we are just spewing ignorance. So that's why it's important. I call the people back to, meaning I'm calling myself and you, to knowledge. Look it up yourself. Look up the evidence. Do those sects, do they believe like the Sahaba? Did the Sahaba say, hey, we don't know what the meaning of sifat is, like the Mufawwida? No. Did the Sahaba even get into those arguments and say Allah is bila makan, is without a makan? No, they never asked these questions. They heard and obeyed the Prophet ﷺ. When he gave them the khabr sahih, the sound wahi, revelation, they believed it. They didn't question it. They didn't dispute it. No, but Ya Rasulullah, how can we say Allah is like this? Aren't we making a resemblance? No, the Sahaba didn't ask that. They didn't question that. They didn't have rhetorical answers. They didn't have skepticism. They accepted the book in the Sunnah as revelation, and they said, oh, Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you mean that Allah descends to the lowest heaven every last third of the night? They believed it. They didn't say, oh, no, that's making a resemblance. No, well, descending means this. Maybe we can get a new meaning for it. Maybe we can make ta'wil of it. No, that is the way of Mubtadi'ah, meaning they have innovated something new, new ways of thinking, new ideologies in Allah's religion. So this is the difference between taslim fi nusus, accepting the divine text as they are, versus those who have to distort and make the text follow their intellect. This is the difference in general between Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah and many of the people of Ahl Kalam, the people of Kalam. So that's just something a very simplistic approach to this issue for those people who have some confusion. Because even when I travel and I meet some of my brothers and sisters who love the Sunnah, but yet they are confused because they still think, well, the Asharis have something good and you Salafis have something good, brother. Can I be in between? I like all of you guys. You're all my brothers and you all love Islam, and we're all your brothers as long as we're in the fold of Islam in the general sense. But to confuse the two, to confuse the path of the Salaf versus the path of those people who came later, who innovated in Allah's deen, is a big mistake. And so we have to be careful of that. So the malakhis, the summary is that when we say they're not from Ahl Sunnah, we mean that they are not adhering to the path of the Prophet ﷺ in all issues, in aqidah, in minhaj, methodology, and so forth. But we do not mean the general meaning, which is that they are Shia. We're not saying they're Shia. They're not Shia. They are an innovated sect, which the Shia is an innovated sect. But as I said, those terminologies, they have both of those usages that have been used and understood in the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam, from the first generations into the latter day generations. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Almighty, to accept our good and forgive our evil. Bless us with ikhlas, with the battle of sunnah to Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with ilm and nafiya, wa rizqan tayyib wa amalan mutaqabbalan, and protect us from letting our emotion and our desires lead our way in our practice of Islam, but rather let's try and hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us the tawfiq, the guidance and the success to practice Islam based on the divinity of the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, based on the truth, based on the way of the Sahaba radiyallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'een. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And if there are any questions, inshallah ta'ala, we will try to entertain, and if not, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us and guide us all. Ameen. Talking to a sister that I like, and we were having a friendly conversation. All of a sudden she yelled at me because I asked her to make space for me. I have been sad ever since. Any advice? She took offense. For one, you shouldn't have been having this friendship and this comfy, cozy relationship, and that is why you're hurt and she's offended, because you already tajawuz al-had. You already went to a place you didn't need to be. If you are interested in marrying the sister or a sister, you need to go ahead and contact her wali, or ask her, hey sister, I am interested in marriage. Please don't take this in offense, and pursue it that way. But as far as you getting so comfy and cozy, and then you saying it in a joking way, or you say in a way she's offended by, now look, everyone has, because of this comfort, has now has problems, some difficulty in their life, as far as the confusion, as far as the hurt. I read an article in which it gave a reference of 1,000 ulama who made takfir on Asharis. Are they the modern day Jahmiyyah? May Allah save us from their evil. So you will find all kind of arguments with regards to these issues. And again, the ibra here, the reality here is what a person believes. You cannot make takfir of all Ashaira or all Maturidiyah, and especially the general ones from them, and even the learned from them. If they have bid'ah mukaffara, then that warrants takfir. If someone has bid'ah mukaffara, even if they say they're Salafi, if they say they're from Ahl Hadith, if they say they're Hanafi, Hanbali, Shafi'i, it does not matter what they claim. It matters what they believe as far as this issue of takfir and what they practice. If they say, hey, I'm Salafi, but they go to the grave and they supplicate and they raise their hands and they cry, Ya Abdul Qadir Jilani, a'udhu billah min dhalika, then this shows they have bid'ah mukaffara, no matter what they call themselves. So the ibra here is not what 1,000 ulama say, or whatever you've read, or whatever research. The point is not to make takfir of those people who are in fold of Islam. The point is looking at the nusus of those who are hardcore on a particular aqidah from amongst the Asha'ira. For example, if they say and believe that their ulama have knowledge of the unseen, well, this is bid'ah mukaffara. So those who hold that belief, but you'll find many from them who don't hold that belief. Or if they are those who say, yes, we make tawaf around the graves, and this is showing our honor for the inhabitants of the grave. Ala kulli hal, it has to do whether a person has bid'ah mukaffara, bid'ah which takes you out of the fold of Islam. There's bid'ah which takes you out of the fold of Islam. There's bid'ah that does not take you out of the fold of Islam. So that is why it's so important for us to be cautious about that. And as many of our scholars in contemporary times, the muhaqqiqeen from Ahl Sunnah mentioned, the Asha'ira, again, the ibra is whether they have bid'ah mukaffara or not. But there are many Asharis that they're Muslim. They're your Muslim brothers. You can pray behind them. You can pray side by side with them. But if they have bid'ah mukaffara, they say, they have bid'ah which takes them out of the fold of Islam, then no. Then those ones are out of the fold of Islam. Now, hopefully with that's clear. How to deal with people who talk about Allah and His deen without knowledge, especially on YouTube and Instagram. Well, there's not anything you can do about that. You can advise someone if there's someone who's going to take that, but many people, this is the trend of the day. because now everyone can open an account and have a platform. So that is going to be the reality of today. So if you have a way to influence them, then speak to them and say, Akhi or Ukhti, my brother or sister in Islam, it's better to study more before you engage in these topics, or you engage in debates, or you talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's deen if you haven't studied. So you can deal with it. That's the best way. There's no way you're going to be able to command the good and forbid the evil for everything in the dunya. Impossible. Or even everything in your surroundings. But what you do is you fear Allah as much as you can. And that's why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that all of these things are in stages. Qala sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in the hadith of Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala, قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول من رأى منكم منكرا فليغيره بيد. Whoever sees a munkar, then change it with his hand. If he's unable to do, then he should change it with his tongue. If he's unable to do that, he should change it with his heart. وَذَلِكَ عَرَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. That's the weakest form of iman. That's the weakest form of faith. So that lets us know that there's maratib, there's different levels, and that you're not going to be able to command the good and forbid the evil in every single environment you're in. But at least to the most minimal of way is when you see something sinful, dislike that sin in your heart. Dislike it in your heart. Now, can we take knowledge from Sheikh Faleh Al-Harbi, rahmatullahi alayhi? Sheikh Faleh Al-Harbi, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon him. Unfortunately, he fell into extremism, ghulu. Sheikh Rabi, hafidhullah ta'ala, he wrote extensively, or wrote a pretty strong book refuting Sheikh Faleh. Sheikh Faleh had some big problems. He had some big issues. May Allah forgive him for his sins, because la shak, his extremism caused a lot of divisions around the world, and from Ahl Sunnah. So there would be zero reason for you to go to his website, or I don't even think he has any books. Okay, actually he may have a few things that have been transcribed, but he doesn't have the wealth of leaving behind knowledge. And there's no benefit in listening to his tapes or anything, because those things can cause a disease in your heart. They can cause you to be extreme. He made some serious errors in methodology, in manhaj. So there is no khair fi dhalik. So you can seek, ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him for what he did and have mercy upon him in that sense. Now, if someone knows something is totally haram, but he proceeds to do it, is this kufr or shirk? It can reach a level of shirk. Okay, if you love and have desire of that sin and you're careless about your deen, and Allah knows best what those exact dawabit are, it can reach a level of shirk. But in general, no, because all sin, most of the people know many of the things that they're doing is wrong and sinful. We don't make takfir on the ummah. No, it's not. That's not how it works. But there comes a degree where a person can begin to love and desire sins more than they love Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and more than they love obedience to Allah, and not feel sorrow for their sins and make it lawful. This is the greatest of dangers of when you have to really be concerned about falling into kufr or shirk. Now, what are your thoughts on Nu'man? I don't have any thoughts on Nu'man. I mean, I would never take knowledge from him. So whatever quotes he says about Jarir, Imam Ibn Jarir, rahmatullahi alayhi, and so forth, when Ahl Sunnah and even Ahl Bid'ah hold the Imam in great regard as far as being an Imam. I mean, why would you listen to some 20th century babbler. May Allah guide us in him. Make dua for Nu'man, or ask him to cease speaking foolish and to restrain his tongue. Where does he have the authority to say something like that if he said that? So that's in thabit, if this is the case, if this is true what you're saying. So my thoughts, I have no thoughts about, I don't think about him. He's not in my repertoire of thought. My thought is about taking care of my duties and responsibilities, bettering myself, trying to go forward, trying to leave something behind, which is khair, and deal with my own affairs. I don't listen to Nu'man, I don't listen to Yasser, I don't listen to even people, mostly in the West in general. It's rare that I might listen to something in English that has to do with Islam. So this is just where I am. So I'm really more unaware and looking at what the ulama are saying. So I don't really, that's something I wouldn't have a lot of knowledge on. May Allah guide us in him and help him to control his tongue. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Haven't the Salaf said whoever says Allah is everywhere is a kafir? Now, I understand the layman who believes this are excused, but what about the learned of them? So again, this is a statement of kufr. If someone is really knowledgeable about that, then this is kufr. So then they would not be excused if they are knowledgeable, because you said they have ilm. But the one who doesn't have knowledge, they need to be taught. Okay, they need to be taught. Can you recommend us contemporary specialists in Aqidah to listen to their durus, those who are strongest? Jazakallah khair. I don't know if you mean by people who are Arabic speakers, or you mean in the English language. But many, I've mentioned it many times, I trust all of my ulama that I sat with, Imam Muqbil, Imam Fawzan, Imam bin Baz, Imam Al-Albani, Imam bin Uthaymeen. You won't go wrong there. Okay, you won't go wrong there if you learn your Aqidah there and refer back to those A'imma. And bin Uthaymeen, especially Imam Fawzan, Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli, Sheikh Sulaiman Raheli, Sheikh Ali Tuwaijri. Say, there's so many ulama sunnah that specialize. Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari, Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi, Sheikh there's Kathir. So those are some of the mashayikh that I studied with and so forth that I trust in learning Aqidah. Especially certain of the scholars, that is their specialty. That's literally what they graduated in, and that's what they write a lot about. Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr, Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli, Sheikh, our Sheikh Ubaid al-Jabari, rahmatullahi alayhi. That wasn't his specialty as far as his studies, but, he spent a lot of his life teaching books of Aqidah and benefiting the Ummah. So those are some of the scholars, and you just, you can't lose bi'idhnillah ta'ala in the general sense of just taking from ulama of Ahl Sunnah, and especially the major scholars, you'll find the best of safety. And one thing when you look at, for example, Imam Fawzan, Hafidhullah ta'ala, from the Kibar ulama, and you see that he doesn't, sometimes he gives you what you need. He's not always going to give you in detail about certain things. He gives you what you need to know for the general Muslim, the talib al-ilm, and even other scholars, and he deals with it with strength. So you have a lot of benefit with that approach that the kibar, the major scholars, the way they approach a lot of masail. Whereas some other scholars that have ilm, that have fiqh and khair, but you'll see they, depending on who they're teaching, they go into depth about things. And so ala kulli hal, there is immense benefit from all of those ulama that I mentioned, and there's so many others that you can benefit from and learn your aqidah and feel safe. Sheikh or Imam Abdulaziz al-Rajihi, there's many, and many I didn't name, and walhamdulillah, ni'mah min Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sheikh Saleh Ascendi, Naam. Is looking at impermissible images such that you are addicted to it, minor shirk. It can become minor shirk. And I think for the person who's involved in those things, that their concern should be whether it's shirk, but their concern is leaving the sin, period. You know, not necessarily what have I reached kufr yet or not? Am I this or that? La, you should be fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the person who involves in that, and do everything possible to run and rush away from those sins. Naam. You can listen to Abu Abdullah, Sheikh Ahmed. Yeah, so again, I would name people who are really ma'roof. And I'm not saying that Al-Hazmi is not ma'roof like that, but he's not to the level of those scholars that I've mentioned from Ahl Medina and Ahl Najd and so forth. And his being well known for that Aqidah and spreading the Aqidah on their level. And those you find safety. And when you listen to the major, instead of listening to others, and you know, everybody wants to put their 2 cents in, but I just say that I've said what I've said. And you know, there are some you know, that you'll find strange fatwa from. I'm not saying this is about Sheikh Hazmi, but I'm just saying in general, you can find more mistakes, but it's better to stick with those who are well known, because there's so many that are very strong and ma'roof, and there's no ta'an fihim. There's no slander against them in general, really. They're well known for their aqidah and their strength in their sciences that they deliver. Naam. So then you find safety. You find a greater safety, you know, with less mistakes, especially from those. And there's a beautiful statement of Sheikh, well, it's actually Sheikh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, I believe, and Sheikh Falah, rahmatullahi alayhi, Ismail, rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatun wasi'ah. He mentioned this, but he said, you know, you should be careful about tark al-ma'loom li ghayr ma'loom. You should be careful about leaving off that which is known for that which is unknown. So someone who said, oh, mashallah, you found some nice durus on the internet from him, or you like some of his books and stuff, but he's, you know, he's not like those ulama that are rabbaniyun, that are well known and well entrenched and, you know, been teaching for 40 years and stuff. Why would you leave them and not recommend them, but yet you would recommend someone, you know, who, and then maybe other ulama are speaking about, and there's a lot of controversy about certain statements, certain fatwa, things like this. So it's better to turn the people and direct the people to that which is ma'loom, that which is well known from the ulama of Sunnah. Now, and Allah knows best. How can you stay steadfast when there's fitna all around us, especially going out for work in the West? Well, if you go out to work in the East, you're also going to find that fitna. It may not be in the same way, but if you go to Indonesia, if you go to Saudi Arabia, you'll find women with their abayas open, their hair's showing, and their makeup's on, and everything else. So wherever you go, there's fitna. So basically, the best way to flee it is when you go into the grave. If you're not in the grave yet, then you have to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as much as possible. And you have to take precautions by not going out in places. Don't hang out in the mall and say, why am I dealing with fitna? Oh, don't go to the gym. Oh, why am I dealing with so much fitna and the women wearing Daisy Dukes? Don't go to the beach and things like this, where there's going to be, and I'm not forbidding the beach, but I'm saying to go if it's a well-known place where everybody is naked and you don't have a place where you can kind of find to your own or whatever. You know, don't put yourself in fitna. The problem is a lot of people say, I can't leave this sin, but yet they've got the whole playlist lined up. Okay, so it's very important. You have to take legitimate steps to try to defend that. As far as you defeating it, and you're no longer going to have desire for women if you're a man, that's not happening. You know, it's not happening. You will still love women, but it's how you deal with that love for women. Are you allowing it to control you and overcome you to where you are doing sin and ma'asi and you keep looking? You're going to have to go to work and you're going to see mini skirts on the way. I could be here doing a dars. like I was when I was in Washington a week and a half ago. I was in the woods, away from everyone, and a naked man came running, jogging in the woods, trying to be so progressive and liberal. He was skinny dipping. He left his clothes, and he went all the way hiking deep in the forest. I was literally doing a video, and all of a sudden I see this guy kind of coming around me, trying to sort of avoid me, butt naked in the woods with a cap on and two pairs of tennis shoes. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. So you're not going to be able to totally escape. You can try, but it will come. It is the way, it's the nature. So it's how you deal with those things. Don't put yourself in any environments that are going to destroy your iman. Do your best and fear Allah as much as you can. That's why we have that means of trying to do that by lowering the gaze. If you are consciously trying to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and lowering your gaze, then when you're going out, you will try to implement that to the best of your ability. And that's going to help reduce the shahwa. But if you're totally reckless, you see some skin to the right and skin to the left, and you're just like, bam, bam, it's a done deal. You're going to be maftoon. You're going to be plagued in the heart with fitna. So it's so important to strive your best to fear Allah as much as possible and limit your involvement in places of fitna. Okay? Limit your involvement in those places of fitna and fear Allah as much as possible. Can we say Bismillah quietly in the bathroom with the toilet before wudu, or is it better to say it in the heart? I know Bin Baz, rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatun wasiyah, he mentions about saying it like quietly. Is it bid'ah? Making an intention every time you do ibadah, for example, salat. No, it's not bid'ah. No, that's wajib. But if you mean by intention that you have to say, Allahu Akbar, I'm about to make 4 rakats of dhuhr, and I'm in the masjid, and I'm doing it for the sake of Allah, and then you put it on your chest, yeah, that's a bid'ah. You don't have la talaffuz bi bid'ah. So the scholars like Ibn Rajab and many have mentioned that talaffuz, by speaking the intention, the niyyah, that declaring your intention on your tongue, that this is a bid'ah. No, this is in your heart. And that's why in, like the hadith, inama malu bin niyat, verily actions are tied to the intentions. The scholars mention one of the things we learn from this hadith is that the mahal niyya aqal, that the place of the intention is the heart. The place of the intention is the heart. Naam. Isn't Aqidah just Surah Al-Ikhlas? Surah Al-Ikhlas is a very powerful ayah in the Quran, or verse in the Quran, surah in the Quran, and it comprises of the Tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Tawheed, Al-Rububiyyah, Tawheed, Al-Uluhiyyah perhaps, وتوحيد الأسماء والصفات. توحيد الأسماء والصفات والربوبية لا شك. توحيد العبادة, I can't think right offhand of where it's really manifested in Surah Al-Ikhlas, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. No. So, but just to say read Surah Al-Ikhlas and now you've studied Aqidah, no, this is batil. It's batil. Is it innovation every time you drink something you ask Allah to put blessing in the drink? I don't know. Wallahu alam. Is it haram to watch videos where a man is praising Islam but saying bad words and swearing at Christianity and atheism? Yeah, this is bad. Of course this is bad. The person who's doing this, they are not a person of Sunnah, because this is a way of totally contradicting the Sunnah in a very bad way in your manners. Because when you begin to insult, if I were to go to my job, which is majority, I think, Catholic and Christian, and I were to begin to say things about their deen, for sure they would speak bad about Islam, and then what? Okay, so it is as the Prophet ﷺ said, and warned us against, cursing cursing your own father, or and similar to that when you begin, and the way you would do that, it's not you're going to curse your father, but you will speak about someone else's father and they will curse your father. Okay. Likewise, you speak about someone else's deen and what they believe in a derogatory manner, or you're cursing and using bad and foul language, which Islam does not give you the authority to do. Well, now you've incurred a sin, even though you think you're doing good, even if you think you're bigging up Islam and the Muslims, but you're not. In fact, you're belittling yourself, getting sin for using foul language, and you're causing more hatred towards Islam. Now, can we seek knowledge, and what are your thoughts on Abu Ishaq al-Hawani? I don't listen to him. I know many of the scholars of Ahl Sunnah have refuted him. I know he's a major scholar in Egypt, and I think he might have studied either a little bit with Sheikh Muqbil or Imam Al-Albani or something like this. I think his specialty is hadith, but I don't listen to him, so I can't say listen to him, especially when many of my scholars have warned, many of them, not all of them, but many of them have warned against listening to him. So I don't feel I'm missing anything by not listening to him or buying his books or whatever. Is it correct to say that takfir is from usul ad-din? Allah knows best. What are your thoughts on the Muslims who simp for Andrew Tate? I don't know what simp. I guess you mean sympathize, and you spell sympathize SYMPASIZE. Now, did I spell it right? Something like that. Anyway, it's with a Y, not a I. Sympathize. Have sympathy. I guess that's what you mean. I don't really have a lot of thoughts about that, except that people should not put excessive faith in his arguments about Islam, or his arguments about manliness and things like this, that they should study Islam, not study Andrew Tate. So that's probably what I would say best about him, because I have never, I know he recently did an interview for the BBC, and so he, then did a response and and talked about how they cut and paste his interview. I listened to maybe 1 minute of the BBC interview, I think, if that, and I think it's about a half-hour interview, or it might be an hour or 45 minutes or whatever it was. But I listened to 1 minute. I mean, it has no benefit, no import for my life. If he's on Islam, then we make dua for him and hope good for him. And if he's not on Islam, then he has no benefit for us, because our manhood comes from Islam. It comes from our fitrah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made us men, so we should be men. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the example of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who married women, so we should marry women too. What are your thoughts? If someone believes that action is not a condition for iman, is this irja? Yes, this is a type of irja. That is the asl of irja, in fact. That is the asl of irja. If someone believes that action is not a condition, you said a condition, sorry. So you're saying action is not a shart al-iman. So I'm not even going to get into that. If you are talking about those issues, then you should talk about it in Arabic. Please explain more about Surah Al-Ikhlas and Aqidah. There's nothing else to explain about it. Just read Surah Al-Ikhlas, read the tafsir if you want to know about it. If there are no other questions, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Bless us with ikhlas, with thabat, ala sunnat nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Like I said, you spelled shart wrong anyway. It's sheen, ra, ta. That's shart. And what I mean by that, I don't want to have the conversation in Arabic. I want you to study it in Arabic and go to what the ulama have said and go into depth about the issue, and then you'll have knowledge about it. Thoughts on people calling Imam Al-Albani Murjia. I think those people are sick. Imam Al-Albani doesn't need my defense. As Imam Abdul Muhsin Al-Abad said about Imam Al-Albani, he said that that the talib al-ilm la yastaghni an kutub al-Albani. The student of knowledge in this time cannot do without the books of Imam Al-Albani. And this is really true, in fact, like a true student of knowledge, because he's talking about talib al-ilm haqiqi, a real student of knowledge. They can't do without the books of Al-Albani. How are you going to do without those books? And that's enough said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will keep the Sunnah revived by the hands of Imams like Al-Albani. But his detractors, those people who say he's irja, he made this mistake, he did this, those people will go. They will go. They will not leave anything. No one will remember them more than likely. Wallahu musta'an. Any books talking about this issue? Yes, in Arabic. If you have your Arabic, there are lots of books detailing, and lots of questions have been posed to the ulama. If you do a Google search, you will find Imam Fawzan. You will find probably Imam Uthaymeen. You'll find many of the scholars that are still alive have talked about this, and Imam Al-Albani and the controversy about some of the alfaz, some of the statements that he said regarding and how he said it. And you'll find the tafsilat from many of the scholars. Sheikh Ibrahim Raheli writes extensively about this issue. So yeah, you will find lots of books in Arabic and lots of research in Arabic, you know, talking about this issue and detailing it. As far as for the English speakers, and what generally people need to know is they need to know that conditions, actions are a part of Iman. They need to know actions are a part of Iman. That's really what most of us need to know. We don't need to go into the details of shart al-kamal, shart al-sihha, you know, whether, you know, all these things we don't need to really deal with. You know, we need to deal with the basis of Iman that we get from the hadith of Jibreel and from those nusus which mention that amal, that deeds are a part of Iman. So that distinguishes our faith from other faiths, because other faiths, they can just say, you know, I'm a believer. But in Islam, we know that we need to utter it on the tongue. We need to believe it in the heart, and we need to have actions on our limbs. That all of those actually comprise of what is Iman. So as far as going to those other things, those things don't even need to be brought to the average Muslim, probably in the East or the West. But rather, that's for something for the tulab al-ilm, and to go really deep in some of those masail for the students of knowledge and the scholars, and they can debate those issues and talk about the importance of knowing whether it's a shart al-kamal and meta huwa shart al-kamal, and is there, you know, they can go into those issues, okay? But the general Muslims don't need that. That's for really the students of knowledge and so forth. We talked about that the best, there's many lists by the scholars about the books for tafsir and and beginning books of Aqidah. And I've mentioned this, like I said, good books that are translated, if you're talking about in the English language, then books like Usul al-Thalatha is very comprehensive. And building your creed. Also books that just deal with, as I mentioned, the little fundraiser that I raised for some of our brothers that are incarcerated. Alhamdulillah, barakallahu fikum, for those who contributed with dua and those who contributed with their wealth. Today they got their books and they were so happy. They were so happy. But I did have to do it a little bit discreetly because I didn't, I am admitting I didn't follow all the procedures. May Allah forgive us. Hopefully nobody from my job is listening. But anyhow, ala kulli hal, they received their package of books. What did I get them? I got them an excellent book by Sheikh Zeno, which talks about the pillars of Islam and the pillars of Iman. Okay, and it's going, and the Sheikh goes into detail, rahmatullahi alayhi, rahmatin wasiya, and he gives you the creed of Ahl Sunnah. Also, I gave them another book, which was called the Creed of the Salaf. And it's a small kutayib, and I've taught it on this channel as well. You'll find the thing, so that way you can get an explanation of it as well as the book Aslan. And it's from Dar es Salaam, it's printed from Dar es Salaam. And, you know, its print, or its way of being written is very similar to many of the classical Aqidah books like Aqidah al-Wasatiyah, but classical, way before, like Sharh Sunnah Imam Barbahari, and all those issues, Aqidah al-Tahawiyah, Sharh Sunnah Imam Muzni, and all of these classical books, how the way and the masail that they mention, Usul al-Sunnah, Sharh Sunnah, all these types of books, and they're the same usloob, but it's from a very basic perspective without the dalil. It's giving you the creed without the dalil. It's well backed up and supported by dalil, but it is not, the dalil is not mentioned there except for very little. Okay, but the book itself is very sound, and it's a good way for people to understand these issues. Also, Imam Fawzan's book, which is a little bit more depth, but we finished it here. You can find the whole thing on a playlist on my channel, which I did for another brother, the brother and his family, or for him before he got married, and whoever benefited from it, which is Imam Fawzan's book about called Aqidah to Tawheed or something like this, creed and monotheism. Okay, so that whole thing is in a playlist. I finished the book from the beginning to the end, hours of content. You can go, you can listen to that. Those are also good because you could take the actual book of the Sheikh and benefit from that with an explanation. Now, so those are some good places to start. Tafsir al-Sa'di as well. Is hell eternal? Does Allah Azza wa Jalla mean it? Yeah, I don't know. Didn't Sheikh Abdullah Jarbour call Al-Albani Murji'ah? He's the head of the College of Aqidah in Medina. I don't know if he called Imam Al-Albani. I think he might have said that he fell into irja, because I heard the Sheikh Jarbour myself. This is the only time I ever sat with him, and it was one of my first dorat in Medina, and he taught us Usul al-Sunnah by Imam Ahmed. He taught us that in Masjid Qiblatain, because it was by my house. And many of back in those days, the dorat, it was him, it was Sheikh, probably Sheikh Ubaid al-Jabri, Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari, Sheikh Muhammad bin Hadi, Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr, Sheikh Ibrahim al-Rahili, Sheikh Suleiman al-Rahili, Sheikh Abdullah Bukhari, and probably Sheikh Salih Suhaimi, no doubt, Sheikh Ali Tuwaijri, and many other mashayikh. So these are the dorat that we used to go to and used to be there in Medina. And all those mashayikh who are no longer together, and some of them who totally are against each other and have differences, used to be one, or used to call together in the same dorat. So, ala kulli hal, I heard with my own ears, and I'm sure I have the recording somewhere because those durus were recorded back then. And that kind of shook me, being a newer student there in Medina, meaning living in Medina. And he, when he said that during the dars, he didn't say he said, Ikhwan, he said, in my view, wallahi, Sheikh Al-Albani, akhta fi hadha, he made a mistake, and my eyes open. But again, that's a point al-miyah, that, okay, saying someone made a mistake versus someone calling them a murji'ah is something different. Also, I know he has about a 800-page refutation of my Sheikh Ibrahim Rahili, calling him a murji'ah. He also calls Sheikh Rabi' and many others who hold certain views about certain tafsilat of Iman, murji'ah. So yeah, this is well known. It's well known. But as far as him saying that Al-Albani is murji'ah, I don't know. But I heard with my own ears. I saw his beard moving as he said, because he was only probably 10 feet away from me, because I used to like to sit in the front of my durus. And I recall him sitting in the chair, and when he said that, and I just kind of, whoa, sweated a little bit, and I was like, okay, let's see what he's talking about. Let me come back to the table. Allah understand. So, naam, I heard that with my own ear. As far as him calling a murji'ah, I don't know. Allahu a'lam. May Allah guide us in him. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Advice for young women looking to leave America to study in Saudi. Oh, so difficult for young women, or old women, or women in between. The only way that, honestly, either a woman travels probably without a mahram, and she gets a job in Saudi Arabia. She becomes a teacher. She becomes if she's a doctor, she has certain skills that she can get employed in a place like Saudi. A point with that, though, is Saudi is nothing like it used to be in the past. And it is very difficult to get those jobs where you're going to have time. Even English teaching jobs and those stuff that we used to have in the past where we had time, they want 10 hours from you. And they want your time. They're not paying for you to come, because a lot of us, we used to go and our goal was to seek knowledge and our goal was to live in the land of Tawheed. They knew this. And a lot of our employers didn't necessarily like that. They wanted you as a contract worker. So you have to realize those opportunities are difficult and rarer. Now, there are probably universities and opportunities for women. I don't know if it's opening up more. So what I would say is a woman could look online to see, and if she is actually land some employment, or the second way is through marriage, of course, marrying a brother who they're living in Saudi or is going to Saudi Arabia, and then they go, and then she has some time to as a housewife or whatever, to do seek knowledge. For example, in Medina, there was opportunities. There was a women's section for the women to do learn Arabic and learn things like that. I think some of the universities too have programs now. So there's probably those opportunities. I would say it's still rarer for a woman, but there are opportunities. There are some. I don't know if they're more now or they're limited. I really don't know, because I haven't lived in Saudi now in 3 years. 3 going on 4, I think. 2019, December, I left. Came back to America. So that's what I know. It's very difficult as a woman, a single woman. It's very difficult. There are those ways, as I said, mainly through employment, or if there's a university that will accept her, like an Arabic language program, like in King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah, or I heard in Taif that they have a university program. I don't know about for women, but I know I've had brothers reach out to me, say, hey, I got accepted here, language program. Even in Medina also, Jama Taiba, which I used to work at too, that they have opened up maybe a Sharia program or Arabic language in Sharia, I'm not sure, or something like this. So there are those programs. How much opportunity for women, I really don't know. But like I said, mainly it's going to be through that or through marriage, because otherwise it's not very easy to get there. And then also even having the luxury and the time to be able to study like that, because they don't want you for that reason. Okay? Wallah musta'an. How to approach a girl for marriage on social media like TikTok? I think you asked this question like probably every other stream. May Allah forgive us and you, guide us in you, and bless us in you. May Allah bless you with a beautiful, righteous wife that is pleasing to you, that you can meet her through an appropriate means. TikTok and Instagram, mostly, I would say 80% at least, is not the place to meet a woman. Does that mean it's impossible? No. There's, you don't know what Allah, maybe she comes on, she's a sincere, righteous girl, and you end up somehow having some contact with her, and you guys marry, and she's righteous and you're righteous. This can happen. But 80% chance, I believe, and Allah knows best, that this is not going to happen. Most of what you find on there is wickedness and facade. Facebook, and I don't really go to the Instagram and the TikTok like that, so I really don't know. I don't even think I have a TikTok account. And Instagram, unfortunately, I'm not even posting, and I do want to get active with that for Al-Athari. But as far as just what I see on Facebook, and I just go on there usually to post videos and things like this, and the little that I see from people I know and love and people I've known for years, it's not good. It's not a good place. And you see so much fitna and wickedness, in a sense, sinfulness, from our Muslim brothers and sisters. The people use the language easily. They've made that such a comfortable community, but that community is open everywhere. If I start cursing on the end, I let my hair down, even though I don't have that much hair. My hair is not bald, by the way. I shave it, so I can grow an afro. But say if I let my hair and I get relaxed and I do that and this and that and the other, and I begin to curse and just use foul language, well, that's international. People around the world are going to see that. But people don't think that. It's amazing. I even see du'at on there that I know and have respect for, making a lot of, mistakes on there with the stuff that they're posting and wastefulness. It's just like, man, get a life in a sense, get a real community. That should not be your dependence, to where then you open up, oh yeah, this just happened to me. I can give some examples, but I don't want to expose people. But telling all your personal business and stuff like this about your family. Oh, I just divorced one of my wives, and the other one, she just this and that and the other. Oh, she has this, and blah blah. People just speak and just So no, those aren't the places. There's so much sin on there. And then our sisters, subhanAllah, the stuff that they're doing. 1 minute she's posting niqab, next thing you know, her stories is her naked practically in a bikini. She's in a bikini, but she's on a niqab, and the next day, and the next post. So there is fitna upon fitna. So I know Instagram and TikTok and all those other things are even probably on the same level, if not more, because I know Facebook owns one of them. I think Instagram or something like this. Maybe all of them China I think has TikTok. But ala kulli hal, that is not the place where you really need to go to meet a woman. If you want to meet a sister, you need to probably go to your community. Hopefully you're praying in the masjid. Hopefully you're there for Jumu'ah and knowing and networking with people in the masjid. And that is the asl of the Islamic community, and the asl of where you're going to find that khair and that benefit. And begin a Muslim family, hopefully in that type of environment. Bi-idhnillah ta'ala. Naam. Wish I had some water. How to advise sisters on social media that wear makeup and do the eyebrows, basically tabarruj. Well, like I said, they don't want to hear your advice. So what do you mean, how to advise? They don't want to hear your advice. They're not listening to you. But you can, just like anything, you can give an effort any way you want. But I don't think the sniper approach, the troll approach works. For example, I had some people on here say, a man of the Sunnah should wear a kufi, or a man of the Sunnah should wear this or wear a thobe, and this and that and the other. Okay, this is a sniper approach. Now me, okay, I'm a bit more mature, so that's not going to really have the same thing. But a lot of people are going to be offended and taken aback from that approach. That's not how you really give someone dawah, by throwing out, if I see a sister right now walking with her family or walking by herself, taking a walk, and she's wearing very little hijab or wearing a small khimar and some jeans. If I come walk by and I literally, to this distance to the fence, and I say, hey, salam alaikum, sister, you need to wear a hijab proper, and then I start walking. Is that going to have any kind of Islamic and positive effect? I don't think so. Most human beings are not going to accept that. That isn't from the gentleness and the rifq, and that isn't really the majal. That isn't the way. That isn't really commanding the good and forbidding the evil. That's just spitting out and throwing out, sniping at someone. So the sniper approach in dawah, I think, is much less effective. It's much less effective. So if you want to really have a positive impact, a lot of times you're not going to be able to, if there is some way to reach that sister and to actually, I don't advise you having that conversation if you're a male and so forth. But again, generally, it's not advisable, and especially the sniper troll approach. The sniper troll approach, I think, is much less effective. Why are brothers from Ahl Sunnah warning against Ustad Abu Taymiyyah? You'd have to ask them. Ask them, because I don't know. I don't represent any of those people. I represent me, Khalid Green. You want to know Khalid Green warns against someone? You can ask him, but you can't ask me about what Abu Sama is thinking, or what Abu Tayyib, or this guy or that guy, or Hassan, Abdurrahman Hassan, or what Tahir's thinking. I can't really decipher what anybody else is thinking and stuff, So you have to ask them and go into those things with them if that's important to you. Now, may Allah help us and forgive us. Abu Taymiyyah has good, but has made mistakes in his call to unity with Deobandis when he went on their TV channel in UK. May Allah protect us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us all, Ameen, and guide us all. That is something I'm not aware of, so if it's true, then he should clean that up and rectify that, and clarify what he means by unity. Does he we should be giving dawah together and we should share the platforms and this and that. And it's great that he's having a reach like that, but reach the people with the sunnah, not reach the people with compromising the tenets of Ahl Sunnah. So we hope that that's not the case. May Allah guide us in him and forgive us in him. Ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. How to prepare for marriage as a young woman. Preparing for marriage as a young woman. Well, a lot of times that comes with the family's tarbiyah, the way the family raises a girl. But if a girl, for example, a revert or a woman, anyway, she's just trying to prepare herself. She's trying to, prepare herself. Then knowing the rights of spouses is very important. That she knows her role as a Muslim woman to be obedient to her husband, to also learn how to wisdom is something you don't just learn wisdom it's a process to have that, to have knowledge. Of course, is a process to seek knowledge, but even gaining wisdom is through experience and so forth. So what I would say for a young woman wanting to marry, that she should also learn and benefit from older sisters and people who have successful marriages on learning how to safeguard the tongue. A woman should not be, even sometimes if the husband is wrong, it's better. And aslah, take the humble approach. Because a man is, if he's working hard and he's out there and he's trying to take care of his family, he's going to make mistakes, as we all make mistakes. So one thing that one of the mashayikh mentioned, this was Sheikh Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab Al-Aqil, Hafidhullah Ta'ala, one of our mashayikh in Medina. And he was just saying the importance of compromise and understanding, trying to make one another, being understanding and patient as a wife. And I'll give you an example, because a lot of times newly married couples, they don't know anything about patience. And a lot of times, us, especially as reverts, we have a particular image of marriage. And, so we say, my wife last night, she refused me. I mean, should I divorce her? No, it doesn't work that way. Yes, this is a major sin she's done, but she's done this a lot of times out of a type of ignorance and a type of stubbornness, okay? And it takes understanding, because she's going to find shortcomings in you and you're going to find shortcomings in her. And this is what the Sheikh was really trying to say, and what he did say in so many words. And it was translated our sitting on Medina.com a million years ago. And it was myself, Shadid Muhammad, and Ahuna Nader, I think his last name is Muhammad, from Canada. And we were asking the Sheikh about a lot of issues and stuff like this. And that was one of the beneficial things that he mentioned, is the importance of couples this is something even non-Muslim couples, they learn that, it's having that understanding. You're going to make mistakes. So don't be a textbook, have it just textbook in your home. Your wife may not speak to you for a week. Okay, she might be messing up. Okay, and the husband might be messing up, not speaking to his wife for a week. But don't rush to ask for divorce or want out, or say everything is a disaster and is just destroyed. I know so many marriages that have ended before Fajr. They married, and then before Fajr, the sister is making phone calls at 3 a.m. to get a khula. And this, I've seen it many times, these kind of things. So it's very important to be understanding and patient, and realize marriage is something you grow. You grow in that experience and you learn. So for a young woman, she needs to be aware of that, to know, to be in it to win it, to be like, hey, I don't want to be divorced. I'm going to marry. I'm in it to win it. And that she is prepared to be a righteous and good spouse that listens and tries to cater. A man likes to be catered to. That's just the reality. I don't care what kind of man. He loves, mostly women, men, they like a woman to cater. Okay, he needs to be babied too. He might be like, man, everything's going wrong. Yes, I'm in a bad mood. I'm not just like always on whatever. He needs to be catered to. He needs that, ya habibi, tone him down, bring him back in. He needs that comfort. So it's very important that a young woman learns, kind of goes into the marriage with those things, that she's going to be that comfort and that strength to her husband. Also, she needs to know what she wants, what she's looking for, and she needs to have an idea of what the parameters she wants to set for the kind of marriage. Is she willing to work, or is she not willing to work? Is she to work in an Islamic environment and stuff like this to help in the household if it needs to be done, or whatever the case may be. Those things need to be clear and understood. And also, another issue, I know I've gotten way kind of off topic, but just something to be aware of, if she marries outside of her culture, and I mean like in another country, not necessarily another race, but more so another country, a total different culture, okay? Those things need to be considered too, about the difference in cultural expectations, family issues, traveling. If she's marrying a sister in America and she's sponsoring her husband from Morocco, these are things to consider. Is he real and legitimate or not? Does he just want a visa? Or, and what kind of guy is he? Is he going to be a heavy-handed kind of guy, a violent person? All those kind of things should be kind of looked at and considered in those issues. So that's a little bit I can say as far as a woman preparing herself. Prepare herself through knowledge and asking questions and sitting with wise sisters who can also give insight, especially sisters that are wise and remain married, that have long-term marriages. They also can give good counseling and advice. Now, and also, even when people that a sister or a brother, they find someone a compatible potential spouse, they should also make sure that they what's good is Islamic counseling before the marriage. That's also a good thing, to have a sitting with an imam, knowing your rights and stuff. And that shows that you guys are serious and you really want things to work, that you sit down, you counsel, you guys kind of get some good advice about, hey, what happens and what to expect, and those are good things. Those are good positive things to as a couple. Now, Zakir Naika, I don't know. Why are you asking me about these people? Is he? Yeah, whatever you heard, go to those people you heard it from. Can two owners of a business talk about the bad qualities of their employees behind their back if they are thinking of firing them? Well, yes, they have to think about that for their business. If they're doing something which is for the benefit of their business, it's not the intention to speak about harm. You have to do that. You have to know about the quality of your employment, the performance of your employment. So you have to discuss the performance of your employees. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a part of the business and keeping the business running. It's not something which is madmoom, because it has a Sharia-based maslaha. It's a dunya-based maslaha, where it's not madmoom, inshallah ta'ala. What are your thoughts on Yahya Hajuri? Why am I getting asked about all these people? And some of them I've even talked about before. Yes, I've spoken extensively about that. The Sheikh Muhammad ibn Wahhab's book, you can find whole playlist on the YouTube. At least probably 3 different playlists going over the Nawaqid al-Islam, if not more. Whole times going through the book. How to approach individuals who takfir the rulers. You don't have to approach them. I mean, a lot of times those people are on what they're upon, and they're upon their thing. So I say avoid them, and I say don't sit with them, and I say don't debate with them. Is it okay to eat more? I can't give you fatwa on that, but you take care of your body. So if you're lifting heavy weights and stuff, you need more protein. Protein is going to help build muscle, and it's going to help the recovery. So recover. You need to do what you're going to do to recover. Now, how do we bring these people back to the correct aqidah? We can't. A lot of times we can't. Pertains to rulers such as, that one thing I want you to learn is you can't have everyone think how you think and how you want them to think, and everybody to be on your manhaj or aqidah, even if it's the correct manhaj or aqidah. That's why we give dawah. That's why we give da'wah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But not everyone's going to be convinced, and not everybody you contact with is going to necessarily agree with you, nor is it mashru' for you to get in a debate with everybody about these issues. So it's very important to realize that right off the get-go, that you cannot bring everybody back, and you cannot convince everybody, and you cannot get into debates with everybody. So that should not be your goal. As someone pointed out here, really work on yourself is the best thing. Work on getting your heart, fixing your mistakes. And this is what you see a lot from a lot of our ulama. And when they have knowledge, and they have the ability, and they have the azima, the determination, you'll see those scholars who spend efforts in refuting Ahl Bid'ah to clarify the i'tiqad and protect the i'tiqad and minhaj of Ahl Sunnah. So that's good, but not for everyone to get into that. Now, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.